It's a blessing to welcome on one of the quickest rising guys in the country right now. He's been guy the last two starts now for Oregon State. Jarod Lucas, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Well, I just said you're started back-to-back games, two big wins now. What's it feel like?
It's good. Most importantly, we're winning. But for me, I always set a goal out to start.
Mhm.
Obviously, I've gotten these last two starts, and then we've gotten two big wins. So, at the end of the day, whether I'm starting or not, winning ball games for my team is most important.
And your level of play has risen drastically. We see obviously last year you didn't start too many games, played in most of them, but this year's this big jump where, as I said, you deserve that starting spot, averaging nearly 13 a game. What's led to this big jump for you?
My work ethic.
Mhm.
I've been determined, and I set some goals out before this season. I knew I'd have a lot bigger role in the team this year. The coaches told me they have a lot bigger expectations for me. And this off season, I trained with my trainer Olin, working out with a lot of NBA guys. So it got me better. I really focused on my defense and being more of a consistent shooter.
Mhm. I want to get into this season a little bit more in a little bit, but let's kind of hear the backstory about you. You come from California, where you had really one of the more historic careers, California history, top in all kinds of records you broke. You broke 15 school records, all-time leading scorer in SoCal, one of the top all-time California leading scorers. Just take us through what it's been like in just that high school career for you.
My dad coached me in high school.
Mhm.
I stayed home. I played for my local high school. In Southern California, a lot of the guys tend to go to private schools. I stayed home. I went to my local high school. We started in Division 3, which is kind of in the middle of the pack in Southern California, and we worked our way up to Division 1, which is besides the Open Division, it's the highest division
Mhm.
in Southern California. But besides that, I play with a lot of local friends growing up, and that's kind of a big reason why I take so much pride being from Hacienda Heights. Last Division 1 player was my dad from Hacienda Heights. So I take a lot of pride being from Hacienda Heights and doing my best to put my city on my back, especially when I play on the basketball court.
You mentioned a key piece there. Today, we see so many guys take a prep round, go out of state, or and maybe even go to a place like Sierra Canyon now. We see or see, kind of forming super teams where we can travel, play in the open division, whatnot. Not a lot of guys that are good high school players and good recruits want to stay local, stay 4 years at a program. What led to that decision? Why'd you really just want to stay there instead of look at other opportunities?
I'd be lying if I said that I never took a look at some of these other schools.
Hmm.
Private schools, the option. But the big reason for me, my dad being my high school coach, it's pretty much a no-brainer. I grew up in my high school gym at Los Altos. So for me, I also had a really close group of friends growing up with, and we all kind of stuck together. And we ended up doing a lot of things that my high school had never been done. My high school is not really known for basketball. But we took a school that's not known for basketball and for a couple of years now, and now we have another kid who's got Kansas offers, Jazz Gardner. So we've just kind of put it on the map in Southern California.
Discuss this bond with your dad because coming just from someone that's played college basketball, he kind of be that mentor for you on the court, and then he also takes you to the other perspective, and he's now your coach for you. He's coaching you through your high school career. Just how strong is your guys' bond, and just what was it like having that person in your life?
It's good. Both my mom and my dad have played a big role in the person I am today, as well as on the basketball court. But
Mhm.
my dad, he's the one who introduced me to the game of basketball. Like I said, he's been coaching there for 25 plus years. So basically, when I was in the womb with my mom, I was in the gym in that same Los Altos gym. But it's experience that I know that I'm never going to forget, especially the way I kind of finished my career averaging 40 a game. Taking my high school to Division 1. I couldn't have asked for a better career there.
And let's just look at the numbers you had there. You mentioned your insane senior year, but overall, they mentioned all-time leading scorer in SoCal, top scorer all time in California history. Just looking at all these awards, all these records, everything you brought in throughout your career, is there one that stands out the most to you?
For me, I definitely say the all-time leading scorer in Southern California basketball history, like you had said. There's so many good players in Southern California year in and year out. I know at the top of the list, Casey Jacobson was a record that I had beaten out. But also, think about Southern California: DeMar DeRozan, Paul George. I mean, you name it. James
Mhm.
Harden. Not that these guys, they played for some elite teams, and my team wasn't an elite team. I wasn't playing the best teams day in day out, but
Mhm.
you know. my team was, we were up there, but we weren't as quite as good as some of these other teams.
And to have that mindset, clearly you have to have a lot of confidence. You have to know and trust your game from the scoring aspect and just all around. But you're heading into each one of those high school games knowing that you're capable of putting up 40 plus every single night you get step on that court. How would you walk into that game and with that kind of confidence and be able to produce at that level?
Like I mentioned before, my work ethic. I'm a guy that, I'm determined to get to my goals and dreams. I've always told myself every day, try 5 or 6 times, getting at least 300 makes in a day outside of practice and outside of my own individual workouts. So it really is just work ethic, and then going into a game, knowing, especially my senior year, knowing, I'm gonna have to score 40 to compete with a lot of these high level teams to pull out a win.
When it came after the high school season, you're playing AAU at Compton Magic, and you're part of one team specific. Compton's always a great team, no matter what year it is. But there's one year that's always going to stand out. They're 48-2 team. You guys have the likes of many, many guys that could become NBA players soon. National champions. Just how special was that team being a part of that?
It's definitely one of the better moments I've had in my life up to this point. All those guys, we had all played together, starting our freshman year. Like I said, Isaiah Mobley is one of my best friends, and Evan Mobley played Isaiah, Evan, Big O, Johnny Juzang, me, Jalen Clark, Isaiah Hill, who's been killing at Fresno State. Our team was loaded, but for a guy like me, and I can know a couple, everybody else on our team, it made you better. It made me better knowing, hey, if I'm not hitting a shot, I got Johnny Juzang, Kentucky, UCLA guy behind me. And especially in the summer, the year before I was playing up on the 17s when I should have been playing 16s. We had Jules Bernard, Timmy Allen,
Mm-hmm.
and Javon Blackshear. It pushed me, because if I wasn't up to that level to compete with those guys, I'd sit on the bench. So yeah.
And we look at that roster, and you've already played a couple of the guys we'll touch up on a little bit, but Evan Mobley will be a top 5 pick this year. Who knows when Isaiah Mobley will go pro? He has the potential of that. San John's using a lot of the guys who could be playing not just at the college level, but pro level. Knowing that this team was that special, where would you rank them up in terms of all-time AAU teams? Like, how special was this team truly?
In my opinion, and I'll say this to anybody else on some of these other AAU teams. Obviously, I wasn't there years back,
Mm-hmm.
but all my time playing AAU, we were a very, very tough team to beat. I very, very tough. When you got 3 7-footers in there, and you got me, I'd say me and Johnny Juzang, two of the better shooters in the country.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty hard to defend.
And I mentioned you just got done playing the Mobley brothers. You were able to play Big O last year. You've got just all these guys you're constantly going up against that were on that team. What's that like though when you play them in college, best friends, off the court especially? What's this it like going up against those guys?
For me, especially going up against the Mobleys, those are guys I've known. I hang out with those guys all the time in the summer. It's definitely very competitive. Guys that for me, I want to beat those guys, especially Isaiah. Me and Isaiah are always talking back and forth. But it was good for us to get this first victory. We actually got them next week, so hopefully we can come out on top again. But he's a good dude. So is the whole Mobley family, and then Johnny Juzang will play when we go out there next week as well.
I know Evan's more of a quieter guy everyone talks about, but no, Isaiah can sometimes get into it at times. But that trash talk wise, take us through those times and just going up against Isaiah. What were those trash talk battles like?
Me and him. I've known, like I said, I've known this guy since my freshman year, 8th grade. We've been competing probably throughout our whole life. So especially at the free throw line, I was just messing with Isaiah a little bit, and then Isaiah was talking to me a little bit as well. But it's all competitive, off the floor. He's one of my closer friends.
How about Evan? Has Evan ever got involved in any form of trash talk before Compton and college or any time?
No, no, Evan's a quiet one. Evan's a silent killer. You know,
Mhm.
I don't think there's too many guys that can stop Evan.
And balance that relationship, though. We know that when you get on a court, clearly the friendship's got to stop to a degree, especially just because you're trying to win your game, play your game. But how have you learned to balance that where you kind of flip the bond where off the court you guys are cool hanging out, but on the court you flip that mentality?
Like I think you mentioned, like before the game, you'll say what's up to these guys, and
Mm.
once you cross those lines, it's a war. especially for me, I've always kind of, been behind these guys, Isaiah and Evan, and they deserve it. They're some of the better players I've ever played with in my life. But, I've been behind these guys, and, I've said, you know what, when I get this opportunity, I'm going to try and beat them. It was good to be able to beat them this past week, but, I know Isaiah and Evan and, a couple of the other guys that I know they're going to be coming for us when we play them this next week.
Just the Compton Magic brand in general, though. We got Dalen Terry out there and playing in Arizona. We got a lot of just Compton Magic guys that might have been even younger than you coming in soon. Just this overall brand of Compton Magic in the Pac-12 being built. How fun is that kind of just looking at all these guys you've either played with or been in the same organization with across the league?
It's great. It's almost like you have some older brothers and younger brothers.
Mhm.
For some guy, a guy to me that I've really looked up with, and he kind of looked out for me, especially my freshman year when I had struggled a little bit, was Timmy Allen, another Compton Magic guy I played with. Just kind of looking out for me. If I was struggling, being there, hey Jay, keep your head up. This is something. I played Dalen Terry last week, another Compton Magic guy that I know, and I gave him a few words. Just encouragement because in your freshman year you go through a lot of ups and downs. Basketball wise. So, I just gave him a couple words of encouragement. And it's the same thing if you ask any Compton Magic guy. It's that tight family. If somebody's always going to be there for you, especially on the basketball court.
Man at the head of it all, A Tope. Discuss this him. What's his impact been on your life and how's it kind of helped you through your high school career and now college career?
He's the main reason why I joined Compton Magic. I
Mhm.
remember when I first started talking to Atobe, I was questioning, whether to join Compton Magic. There were a few other teams at the time. But he was showing up to my high school games. Not too many other AAU coaches were doing that. He believed in me really early. And a lot of people my freshman year, nobody really knew who I was, and they thought it was a fluke. Me averaging 25 points per game as a freshman. But Tobe believed in me, and he said, "Hey, I want you to play 16U, which is a year up than I was supposed to." Ended up doing that. Me and Isaiah had played together. And then I told him, I said, "Hey, Tope, at the end of the day, my goal is being the Pac-12." And he said, "Hey, that's easy." And he named all the guys at the time they had in the Pac-12. Um, here I am playing the Pac-12. I couldn't have done it without him.
And another big aspect for you is your GPA, your academics. Graduated high school with 3.94 GPA. Now you just got Scholar Athlete of the Month this past month. Just getting all these accolades and really kind of prioritizing academics at the same time. How big has that been for you?
It's big. My mom's always been the one that's pushed me. She's always kind of, especially my younger brother and I. She's the one that pushes us, tells us, "Hey, you got to make sure you do your schoolwork." That was the one big thing when I was younger in middle school. There were no basketball practices if homework wasn't done.
Hmm.
So she's always pushed me in it, and it's something now I tell her all the time. Now that I'm living on my own in Oregon, she set the tone so early for me. That I do all my homework now, and then once I finish my homework, I'm going to the gym. So I can attribute that to her.
Absolutely. Let's go through this recruiting process because you have a lot of schools on the table. Hawaii's in the mix, V, Nevada, Tulsa. I mean, you have all these schools in the mix for you. Just take us to that recruiting process and what ultimately led to Oregon State.
Early on my freshman year, that's when I was, kind of making a lot of noise. I was a top 50 player in the country. And I kind of struggled. My sophomore year wasn't very good, and I lost a lot of schools.
Hmm.
A lot of schools left. Oregon State was the one kind of Power Five school that stuck around. Coach Tinkle had always been in contact with me, and like I said before, the Pac-12 has always been my dream. My dream's always been the Pac-12, and obviously, it would have been nice to go to USC or UCLA, but I set a goal out. Since these schools don't want me, eventually I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to beat them, and I'm going to show them. I'm from Southern California too. Like
Hmm.
they could have recruited me, but Coach Tinkle recruited me, and I couldn't be happy with the decision that I made to come here at Oregon State.
I'm not a big fan of rankings and all those sites, but especially for a guy like you, we see once again, I think he was 294, something like that. And they're clearly so far, especially looking the way you're playing right now, was not that many guys better than you. But what kind of chip did they put on your shoulder through high school and then especially college? Kind of thinking that a lot of people were, in a way, doubted you, especially on the national scene.
They did. And I was doubted, and I've been doubted my whole life. But like you had said, I went to a high school. I didn't go to any of these big time high schools. I wasn't on Balls Life. Wasn't on any of this. throughout a lot of my career, nobody ever heard of me. Even though I was putting up some pretty good numbers, and then on Compton Magic, I kind of, and it's perfectly fine, but I had 4 or 5 All Americans on my team.
Hmm.
They made me better, but I took a back seat to them as well. Um, but I just kept on getting better. Obviously, playing on the Compton Magic made me get better every single day to want to make sure I'm on the level of some of these All Americans: Isaiah Mobley, Evan Mobley, Big O, Johnny Juzang, Jalen Clark. Just so many good players. It pushed me to be good, and it kind of made that chip. That I'm going to get better now here at Oregon State. It's that same chip. I got to get better. Got to get better. This year at Oregon State, we projected last place in the Pac-12.
Hmm.
Here we are. We're in the middle of the pack right now. Nobody. I've always been doubted.
So let's go into this freshman year. As I said, you played in 31 games last year, a really pretty limited role overall. You get around 4.9 points per game, solid-ish numbers, especially coming off the bench. But just take us through the ups and downs of that first year.
A lot of freshmen go through this, and for me, I know that I was nervous. I was living out my dreams, playing the Pac-12, and I got really nervous. And like you said, I went through some ups and downs. I hit a point after the USC and UCLA weekend. I said this role and what I'm doing right now, it's not who I am. It's not. I didn't work this hard to sit on the bench. And then I had a really good weekend on Stanford and Cal trip, scored 21 points, and then after that, everything was pretty much uphill. I had a really good game against Stanford, a couple other good games in between there, and then last game of the season, that was when I hit a game winner against Utah. So everything else from there went uphill. But every freshman goes through this ups and downs. So.
You guys did have over 500 last year, 18-13, as you mentioned. If COVID didn't come into effect, who knew how far you guys could have went? Just beat Utah, would have been moving on the Pac-12 tournament. But when you had that turning point, you start getting going a little bit, especially that Utah game where you have that game winner. What's going through your mind, and how much confidence really came into you after that?
I was, especially after that Utah game, my confidence was through the roof. After the Stanford game, confidence just kept on going. That Stanford game was towards the middle of the Pac-12, and that's where everything I started to get in the groove. I started to get comfortable with my teammates. But defense was always my biggest issue my freshman year. That was the thing I worked on this off season. Defensively, I struggled, and I'm getting better every day. Yeah.
Last year, when you guys found out that COVID was going to shut everything down, we know how crazy that time was. But as I said, you guys are coming off a hot win over Utah. What was your guys' original mentality following that game before you knew about COVID potentially shutting everything down? How far do you guys think you guys could have went at that point?
Especially after a win like that, we actually we're on a 3-game winning streak. We beat Cal and Stanford the game before, and then that first game in the tournament we beat Utah, and the next game we'd have Oregon. And a lot of us believed if we would have knocked off Oregon, we probably could have been an NCAA tournament team. And we had the momentum. We had 3 straight wins. But at the end of the day, I knew we were going against a really good Peyton Pritchard-led Oregon team.
When you guys find out that COVID and all this stuff starts going down crazy right at that point, what was your guys' reaction? And how did you guys originally find out that the season was pretty much canceled?
Gianni Hunt, who I live with now, and who's my roommate on a lot of these road trips. We were taking a nap. We had already went and watched film in Oregon, taking a nap. I think the game was at noon, and one of the assistants was knocking on our door. And usually when somebody's knocking on your door, it's not a good thing. So we got in, and hey, we're having a quick team meeting, and then we all kind of had looked at our phone right before the meeting, and we saw through our phone, and then we had that meeting. The Pac-12 tournament was canceled, so it was tough.
At that point, though, I know this was a time for guys at all different levels to kind of look at themselves as we don't know how long we're going to have in this lockdown. We don't know what it's going to look like, but we know there's no games going to be happening for a while. And you kind of get an opportunity where some guys just kind of chilled at home. Some really went to the gym and worked in the game to another level. How did you address that? How did you kind of handle the whole COVID pandemic in terms of work ethic?
For me, I'm a guy that's always going to stay in the gym, whether it's staying in the gym in the backyard or running. I found a way. Especially with my trainer Olin, he had a couple of NBA guys: Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, London Prentice. So there was a gym he had, and over quarantine, I took a risk. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I know that if I do this and if I work out with these guys, obviously it's a risk with COVID, and I'm gonna be as careful as I can.
Mhm.
but rolling the dice right here can really help me this next season because a lot of guys aren't able to get in the gym. I'm gonna be fortunate enough to not only get in the gym, but be in the gym with NBA guys. So at the end of the day, my parents that really kind of they let me do it, and
Mhm.
I was scared myself, because this when COVID was all starting. It was probably 3 or 4 weeks after everything had settled in, and they were fortunate enough to let me go, and then I was in the gym that whole time over quarantine with a lot of elite level players.
I know those workouts are different. You mentioned Shea Gilgeous Alexander. I know he also trains guys like Spencer Dinwiddie. A lot of some of the best guys we see, especially guys from California area or at least West Coast. What are those workouts like? And you see a guy like Shea that's a proven young superstar in the NBA. There's all these guys that are elite. What's like just getting in that gym and just what's kind of the workouts look like?
They're tough. Anybody who's worked out with my trainer Olin knows how tough those workouts are. But it makes me better. I played ones with all those guys, and it pushed me. I was not winning. I couldn't tell you how many games if I ever won a game in the one on one with those guys. But it forced me to get better. And if I didn't want to get better, I keep on losing. But those guys, like you said, Shea, such a skilled player, Nikhil, skilled player, London Prentice, skilled player, and there were so many more players. It forced me to get better defensively, offensively, and learning so much different crafty skills from a lot of these guys has made me better today.
You guys head into the season. We know COVID protocols is in full enforce, and Pac-12 obviously handled it in some different ways than other conferences did, but ultimately, you guys know there's going to be a season in some capacity. But getting back on campus, going through the training camps, just kind of adjusting this COVID pandemic, how was that? What was it like just getting back with the team?
That was good. We actually gotten back a lot earlier than other schools because Corvallis, Oregon is, knock on wood, but it's pretty safe. There aren't too many people out here, so it was good. We gotten out here early. I got out here with a lot of my roommates. I live with three other guys. We gotten out here, got a lot of good workouts in, and fortunately, we're very fortunate to be out here than a lot of other schools. A lot of other schools didn't get back. I think we got out here in June, so we were getting workouts in June, July. Other schools, I know, it wasn't probably wasn't till September till they got in the gym.
You guys hear all this buzz. We know Pac-12 was really hot on how good ASU could have been with Jay Gupp, Marcus Bagley, Remy's returning. We say obviously the Mobley brothers. We discussed them out there. UCLA was supposed to be good. There's all this hype about Oregon's obviously still good. There's all this hype about this Pac-12, and you guys hearing that all these guys how good they could be. A lot of people aren't discussing Oregon State though at that time. What was you guys' mentality? How are you guys looking at that and kind of dealing with all the buzz of all these other programs?
Like you said, all these teams are all very good. All the teams you mentioned, they're all good teams. But we knew that, you know, why not mention us? Why not us?
Mhm.
Obviously, like I said before, we were projected to be last place in the Pac-12 right now. We're 3-3 in the middle of the pack right now, but it pushed us. We that was kind of our kind of thing going into the season. We're projected last. Why not us? We can. You can't do anything worse than 12. You can't do anything worse than last place. So
Mhm.
it motivated us. It fueled us, and we will. Like I said, we got 2 straight wins, and hoping to build off that this weekend. Really good Oregon.
There was a lot of question about who some of the other guard would be in that starting lineup. We know Ethan was going to do his thing. We knew he was probably the lead senior kind of guy for you guys, but a lot of guys, we knew there was a whole bunch of depth on the team. We know you were out there bringing a guy like Tariq Silver from the JUCO route. A lot of different guards were in play for who could fill out. You personally have that competition mindset, though. How are you able to elevate yourself to now becoming the starter?
All those guys are good. Whether I keep on starting or not. I told myself if I keep on getting better every day, eventually everything's going to pan out. And if I keep on trusting the plan that the man upstairs has for me, eventually it's all going to get there. It's all going to fall into place.
And your jump, as we mentioned earlier, it has been drastic. We can pretty much double all the stat line right now. You're playing at, I guess, 13 points a game right now. What's led to this jump? Did you see yourself having this big of an impact on the team this year?
I set a goal out. I always believe that I can do anything I put my mind to if I work for it. If I put my mind to something and I work for it daily, I believe I can get there. That's a mindset my mom and dad, told me early on. And that's kind of, I'm not the tallest, I'm not the most athletic, but I always tell people, I will work hard. I will work hard to get to my goals and dreams. And like you said, I've made a big jump, but hopefully we can keep on winning.
Personally, the biggest thing for you right now is that you've had 8 straight games in double digits. That shows that you're obviously a consistent scorer. You're able to score at a high clip right now as well. But what goes in this consistency? How are you able to rack off 8 straight games, double digits?
I think it's my ability to my ability to score the ball. My teammates, setting me up. A lot of my teammates, they're not mentioned, but they they're setting great screens for me. They're the ones that are getting me these clean looks. I'm a shooter, and a shooter doesn't get clean looks without great screens. So
The biggest thing in college basketball and really basketball in general are backcourts. Everyone loves seeing dynamic duos in the backcourt. And I mentioned Ethan's in there, and right now you've been that second guy out there. You guys have formed a really special duo in the past couple games. What can you guys bet on this though? How special can this duo between you two be?
we've talked about it a lot. We've talked about me, Ethan, and there's a lot of other guys that we play really well together. We got a really good young group that plays great together. And I think we're all kind of starting to gel together. For us, a lot of us weren't able, and for a lot of teams, weren't able to spend a lot of time with their teammates. Even now, separating due to COVID, we have two separate locker rooms for guys, and so a lot of those times weren't really able to be there. But now, we're starting to gel. Everything's starting to come into place. We're really starting to become a team.
Going forward, what can this team do? We know you're guys sitting seventh right now. A lot of big games potentially move up in the next couple of weeks. How do you guys finish off the season, and what can we kind of expect from Oregon State or the rest of the season?
I can expect a lot of big things. We're going to keep on working, like I said. Coach Tinkle is doing his best to keep this momentum going. So are we. The best we can do is get better in practice every day. If we do that, eventually it's going to fall into place once we hit the floor.
Absolutely, man. Well, a few more things before I let you go. One of which I was like wrapping up discussing a legacy. I know that's something that all guys want to do. So when you do step away from the game someday, what do you ultimately want to be remembered for? What do you want your legacy to be? What you achieve both on and off the court?
For me, I want to be the best man that I could be, the best man off the floor, a good child of God, and then at the same time on the basketball court, I want to leave a legacy. I want to do my best to be a winner. That's something that I've always tried to do. I did a really good job of that in high school, both at Los Altos and with the Compton Magic. But I want to be a winner. One that'll hopefully start this year at Oregon State. Last year we had a winning season. Hopefully we get another winning season this year as well.
There's another thing in your bio, TGP. Take us through what that means and why it's there.
Trust God's plan. I got a picture of that in my room. Trusting God's plan. It all kind of came into place. When I was going through a lot of things. It's my sophomore year of high school and then my freshman year of college. There's so many ups and downs in life. But there's one man that has a plan at the end of the day. It's God. At the end of the day, I'm trusting His plan. Whether I'm playing good on the basketball court or I'm being a great man off the floor. Trusting His plan because He is a plan right now. The plan right now.
Mm-hmm. Amen, man. That kind of leads me to the last topic I want to discuss, and that's faith. And we know that kind of growing up in a Christian background, it can always be kind of God influence to kind of influence you into that. But when would you say has been the time that you really have seen for the first time God kind of come into your life and you really start that personal bond with Him?
My mom's been taking me to church. She can probably tell you. I know I've been going to church every Sunday. Even during this COVID time, I've been doing my best to watch church on Sundays. But he's always been a consistent person there in my life, and good times and bad. I've always tried to look for him, and I wouldn't say there's one moment where I noticed, but it's the feeling for me when I go into church and I receive the Holy Communion, where I feel like I have that
Mhm.
God's presence right there with me, even though I feel like He's there all the time. But where I really feel that presence is usually when I'm taking the Holy
Absolutely, man. Well, my final thing for you, give Oregon State fans your 3 biggest goals you have set for the remainder of your career.
For me, one, to win a Pac-12 championship.
Mhm.
Two, finish off where my teammates and I left off last year in the Pac-12 tournament. We had one win, 1-0, but finish it off where we left off, and then eventually have 4 straight winning seasons. A lot of people that know Oregon State, we're not always the best basketball program, but Coach Tinkle's led us in a great direction the past couple of years. So for me, 4 straight winning seasons would be awesome as well.
Absolutely, man. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking time to come on today, and I look forward to see what God's got next for you, man.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless.
Of course, man. You're always welcome on, man. God bless.